Hi friends, David here from Learn Stage Lighting, and today we're going to talk about lighting consoles, which honestly, is one of those things that, the question we're answering today is, does my choice of lighting console, does what I choose to use as my lighting console even matter? Let's dive in. Obviously, maybe obviously if you've been here before, but if you're new, it might not be obvious that was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, okay? That was a little sarcastic in the sense that the overreaction that we see all the time, and I see all the time, is people going, hey, this, and some of these lighting consoles are ones that are our favorites, right? They say, if you're not using Onyx, and I'd pick up an NX1, but it's controlling everything behind me. Say it's an Onyx NX1 or an Onyx NXP wing in this case. This is the console everyone needs. This is the right lighting console. It's the best, etc., etc. And what we say here is, we are never going to say, and one thing you will never, ever, ever hear me say on this channel is this lighting console is what we recommend to everyone or everyone in a particular type of lighting or whatnot. And that brings me to the core of this question, because when you look at this table, right, depending on what you're doing, what kind of show or event you have, it might be that an Onyx system, whether a wing or a full console, a light shark, even a button panel like these B Station 2s that we love, that's a wall-mounted button panel, even a PC interface with a software like Qt. This is actually a network-based controller, but kind of in the same vein. Any one of these that are in front of me for a good number of events and types of lighting could actually accomplish the goal that you want to accomplish. Okay, so when you're choosing a lighting console, and what kind of brought this up to me is I saw over the weekend on social media, where all good things come from, I'm kidding, that somebody was going to town on Vista. And they were saying, hey, I just believe Vista is the best thing. I just believe everyone should have it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I just really disagreed with them. Because as much as I would love to say that about any given console, I think there's a lot more that you need to think about when you're choosing a lighting console. And if you don't think about these things, you're selling yourself short. Okay? That being said, I understand that not everyone that watches this channel, that not everybody that's choosing a lighting console has a ton of time to devote to making that choice. And that's why we at Learn Stage Lighting Gear have people write into us at gear@learnstagelighting.com every day, say, hey, here's what I'm trying to do, here's what I've got, what do you recommend? And we take the time to do that in our expertise, because that's what we do. We recommend a console to you. And not just so that we can sell you a console, though obviously we're a business, we sell equipment, because honestly, focusing on consoles, though I think it's really important, is not really a viable business model. If we only sold consoles, we wouldn't stay open. You got to sell lights too, and that's a much larger percentage of our income. Anywho, so does your choice in a lighting console even matter? Let me play the devil's advocate for a minute here. So you're doing an event. Now, when I say event, and that's a term I like here a lot, it could be a concert. It could be a church service. It could be, heck, the funeral of the church, because I'm doing one this week. It could be a DJ set. It could also be a restaurant's, ambient lighting. It could be outdoor lighting on a parking garage. So when I say event, that basically means for what you do in lighting, what is it that you're trying to do? Like, what's the end goal, right? Because I think people often get like in these superheated arguments about lighting consoles, and they go, hey, this is the best. It's the only good one because it does these things so well, right? But let's think about the end goal of an event at the end of the day. Okay, whether it be a big concert in an arena, a small concert downtown, a church service, maybe traditional, maybe contemporary, maybe modern, like it could be a DJ set. With any of these types of events, okay, what is the end goal, right? The end goal is always to create great lighting that helps draw people in, shape the mood, and ultimately amplify the mood that's being portrayed off of the stage. Okay, that's generally the purpose. And if there's not a stage, if it's a parking garage, then just the mood that the organization, whoever's in charge of it, is trying to accomplish, right? That's what lighting does. And we have to ask that question first when we're choosing a lighting console and when we're talking about if it matters which console you use out of all of these, right? And to be totally honest with you, as much as we recommend, and we have favorite consoles, we have ones that we like to recommend, a lot of times there is no single choice that will be right for a given situation. Where I was talking to somebody about a bridge lighting thing the other week, they were like, hey, we want to use this console, but we might use this console, but the client might use that console. Guess what? At the end of the day, the end result to the public is going to be the same or similar enough that the most of the people attending in the audience of this event, whatever that may be, would not know the difference. Okay? So in terms of outcome, so then you kind of have to throw that out, right? Like you have to say, okay, like I understand that on a practical level, this button station can only really do one universe of DMX and it has very basic cue structure, right? This Qt by Visual Productions, great piece of software, very simple, somewhat limited, but for a lot of circumstances works really well. You know, this Onyx NXP or NX1, you know, any Onyx system is a professional grade console. It can do a lot of depth of thing. The Light Shark can't do quite as much, but it's a little quicker to get started, right? So in terms of capability, that's kind of the first question to ask, right? When you're talking about a lighting console. Like, you know, it has to be capable of controlling the amount of stuff you're doing. If you have fixtures that, like, say on the front LEDs, you know, like we have, this par has 7 LEDs on the front, right? It's not a pixel mappable par, but if it was, can the console that you're using control those parts individually? Do they have the ability to do multi-part fixtures? That's the first question you ask when choosing a lighting console. Is it physically capable of doing the job? And a lot of times when people specify consoles, there can be consoles that are significantly less, you know, complicated, capable, whatever, that may be able to do the given job just fine. Okay, so that's the first step. Is it physically capable, right? Then you've got to go, okay, now we're talking about who's operating it. How do they want to lay out their show structure-wise? Cues, running things on the fly, buttons, you know, the different consoles use a lot of different words for these sorts of things. But basically, you know, even just to the simple point of like, okay, do I want a lot of faders? Do I want a lot of buttons? You know, just buttons like these. Could they be on screen? Do they need to be physical? Do they need to be motorized like this one, or is non-motorized like this one okay? You know, then you've got kind of the interface, right? Like how do we physically interact with the lighting console to get what we need? And that includes the software. Like, how does the software work? Is it easy to accomplish the kind of things we're doing in this event, or is it difficult, right? And you know, ultimately, when you start to get into this place, about once you get past the capability stage, like, is the console capable of doing the event and producing the lighting looks that are required for that event, whatever it would be, right? And so you know, that's like a really big key there, right? And so, but other than that, like, once you get beyond that, it's kind of all preferential. Like, we love Onyx here as our go-to professional lighting console, and that's why I talk about it a lot. I think it has a lot of benefits for a lot of users. That being said, from time to time somebody comes to us and we're talking with them, interfacing with them, and they say, hey, you know, we're Camsys people, we've used it for a long time, we like it, it works really well from us, can you get us a Camsys console? Absolutely. You know, there's very few consoles that I would sit there and say, hey, we don't want to sell you that console, we don't want you to use that console because we don't like where the company's going or because it doesn't meet your capabilities, but that's like very rare. And so at this point in the game, it's honestly just preferential. And I would argue, to answer the question at the front of this video, that by and large, it does not matter what lighting console you use. And I think it's really important to keep that perspective. Early on in my career, there were many circumstances where I had to run events on consoles that I did not like. I remember early on my first job, there was a show we did that was from a group renting a high school theater. This theater had a particular console. I think it was an EDI Bayou. If you haven't, it's BIJOU, I think, is the name of it. It had a lot of issues as a console. It was a computerized, software-based console, but it felt like it was made by a company that didn't really understand computers. It had a lot of issues. But regardless, you know what? To the audience, we made that work as if they'd rented a console from the company I worked for. We made it appear that way. And so ultimately, I just really believe, like that example, and there's so many others, that it doesn't truly matter. Like, you don't have to have the best console in the world in order to do your job. There are often many consoles, different ones on the market, that can do the things you need to do. Now, when you're making an investment in console, you're going to spend that money. I do believe, and I think you should take the time to really look at what you want to do and compare, cost, ease of use, capabilities, and programming style as to how you intend to run things, and kind of mash that all together and look at all of those and kind of average them all out together and then say, okay, what console fits that best, right? And that's why at Learn Stage Lighting, we cover probably more consoles than we should, because they all have different strengths between different consoles and softwares and things like that. And there's different people that they're all really good for. And we go deep on the consoles we go deep on, and so we don't cover them all. Like I mentioned Camsys there from Chauvet. It is a good console, but we believe for most of our users, Onyx is just a little bit better fit, and we've gone deep with the tutorials, with the knowledge, with being able to support people really well with it, and the price points are really solid as well, very comparable, very good. That's just one example. In every tier of console, we have examples like that. And so at the end of the day, like I said before, does it matter what console you use? Does it truly matter? And I would have to argue, as long as it's, like physically actually capable of getting the result that's desired, it doesn't matter. But if you are investing in a lighting rig, if you're spending money on lights, if you do spend time programming and you have budget, then it's worth, I truly believe, getting a console that's going to do the things you want to do, that you can learn and have the resources to learn well, and therefore be able to use to create the events you want better and quicker. But a lot of times people get caught up on things, it's just totally a sidebar, that aren't that important. Like they go, I want this console to do this very specific thing with the lights, and sometimes it can't program in that exact way. But again, to the audience, like you may be able to do something that's really close, and generally that's the case, and it's not going to be any different. So I recommend open your eyes to that. When you are choosing a lighting console, it's definitely worth taking the time. And again, at Learn Stage Lighting, either through the labs or through Learn Stage Lighting gear if you're making a purchase, we help people with stuff like this every day. We love to help people, and we love to get to do that through this platform. So if you need anything, hit us up at gear@learnstagelighting.com or become a labs member. We have a trial right now. You can check that out below, where you can check out the labs, try it out for the first 14 days, and we'd love to have you. And then you can ask those kind of questions. Say, hey, I was thinking about this console. What do I need? And if in turn you need to buy something, guess what? Over at Gear, we love labs members, and we get you personalized pricing. We'd love to help. Thanks so much. Have a great day.